You thought it was just a job, a paycheck, a task, a means to survive. But it wasn't. It was belief, it was ritual, it was worship. And somewhere along the way, the offering became you. Between meetings and milestones, survival quietly turned into obedience, obedience into identity, identity into faith. You said yes, not once, not twice, but 1,000 tiny times, until you forgot how to say anything else. No one made you. You complied because it felt responsible, adult, efficient, smart. You told yourself it was practical. But someone was counting. And every time you said yes, something grew. Not out there, in here. Because you weren't just playing the game. You were becoming it. An altar with a login. A soul with a schedule. A worker. A worshipper. A believer. Welcome to Night City, where the gods don't need temples. They have you. You didn't lose your faith. You just gave it a corporate makeover. The cathedral became a cubicle. The altar, a deadline. Prayer turned into productivity. And instead of salvation, you asked for stability. Your offering isn't incense, it's time. Your confession isn't whispered, it's tracked, tagged, and time-stamped. Jackie Wells? He never kneeled in church. He kneeled to the grind. Eddies. Chrome. A better life for his mum. That was faith. Faith in the hustle. Faith that if he kept going, he'd be saved. Takemura didn't serve Japan. No, he served Arasaka. Not for money, not even for survival, but because he believed. Loyalty as religion, steel as scripture. Because when belief becomes necessity, it doesn't feel like worship. It feels like adulthood. You don't say grace, you say, it's just business. You don't kneel, you check your notifications. This isn't capitalism as economy, it's capitalism as belief. Spiritual architecture, not a system you work in, a system you live by. And it doesn't care if you believe. It just asks, will you kneel again tomorrow? Gods don't appear out of nowhere. They emerge when enough people need them to. Need safety, need order, need growth, need something to believe in. And when we stopped agreeing on kings, borders, or deities, we agreed on something else. Profit. Not because it was holy, but because it worked. Can't argue with results, right? We didn't get conquered by corporations. We invented them. Not as monsters, but as mirrors. Reflections of every value we refuse to question. Efficiency, expansion, ownership, control. And from those values, the Pantheon emerged. Arasaka, the All-Father, born of legacy and fear. A ghost in a boardroom, a badge on your jacket. You didn't just work for Arasaka, you wore it, like blood in your mouth. Ask Takemura what loyalty tastes like. Ask Johnny what it costs. Militech, the god of war. Not chaos, discipline. The promise that peace can be purchased if the budget allows for bullets. Militech doesn't want followers. It wants soldiers. And fear? Always good for business. Biotechnica, the god of life. Not mercy, replication. Crops that don't rot. Cattle that don't die. People who live just long enough to keep consuming. Hope, sold at scale. And everything that grows, grows for them. Ziggurat, Petrochem, Kang Tao, lesser gods, but no less divine. Fuel lines, trigger factories, dopamine delivery systems. You don't have to love them, you just have to need them. And the more you use them, the more they use you, until you forget who was feeding who. This wasn't a glitch. It wasn't a conspiracy. It was design. It was us. Even Johnny knew. He didn't rage at corruption. He raged at belief.
"This city's full of idols," he said. "All it takes to make one is silence."
What do gods do once they're made? They don't bless, they bill. We built them from efficiency and obedience, then acted surprised when they scaled that same obedience into empire. This isn't what happens when systems fail. It's what happens when systems succeed. Arasaka didn't guard the future. They stored it in prisons, harvesting memories, encrypting pain, turning trauma into training simulations sold to mercs. Militech didn't secure the world. They destabilized it on purpose, staging false flag attacks to justify bigger contracts, longer wars, stronger funding. Biotechnica didn't end hunger. They engineered dependence, locking famine relief behind gene patents, converting disasters into verticals. This wasn't malfunction. This was milestone. And you didn't stop it. Because nothing they did ever felt evil enough to interrupt your feed. You needed the services. You liked the perks. You said yes to faster delivery, smarter interfaces, cleaner UIs. And in return, they got your patterns, your preferences, your compliance. You didn't sell your data. You trained them with it. You weren't resisting. You were iterating. This is the price of belief. A world that runs smoother because you've already been smoothed out. You didn't get a future. You got a pipeline. And now the gods you made, they don't demand sacrifice. They just take margins. Because belief isn't free. And in Night City, every system that works extracts. The cost wasn't just systemic, it was psychological. Once the gods were built, they didn't need to demand obedience. We gave it freely, because the war was never for land or laws, it was for thought. You didn't get forced into compliance, you adapted to it. You learned the rituals, you internalized the rules, you streamlined your personality into a marketable asset. Chrome wasn't freedom, it was formatting. You didn't install cyberware to rebel, you installed it to stay relevant. Monowire for efficiency, Sandevistan for speed, optics to track your own worth. You weren't customizing a body, you were optimizing a product. You still called it you, but the you was versioned, refined, edited, until it matched the job listing, the algorithm, the brand. And when the burnout came, they didn't offer help. They offered a subscription, a wellness app, a sleep cycle patch, a loyalty discount. Your anxiety wasn't treated, it was tracked. Your sadness wasn't noticed, it was monetized. Your identity didn't erode all at once. It wore away in updates, until the only thing left was a user profile. This wasn't dystopia, it was convenience. This wasn't oppression, it was interface. And the worst part, you stopped noticing. You wanted a villain, a tyrant, a name to blame. But the truth is, the gods don't wear crowns. They wear logos. Logos on your jacket, on your food, on your phone, your meds, even your dreams. They didn't conquer you. You chose them. Not in one moment, but gradually, convenience by convenience, upgrade by upgrade, until obedience looked like progress and worship looked like adulthood. You thought you were resisting, but you were feeding them with your time, your clicks. Every whispered, "I don't care anymore." They didn't enslave you. You volunteered. That's the real horror. The gods didn't win because they were powerful. They won because we made them necessary. We built a system that reflects us, impatient, hungry, afraid of being left behind. We called it innovation. But it was submission, running on autopilot. Ritual dressed as routine. Belief dressed as progress. But even gods built on code and credit can die if we remember how to stop worshipping. Maybe you're ready to log out. Because gods don't die with violence. They die when belief breaks, when silence turns to refusal. You don't have to overthrow them. You just have to stop needing them. So light your candle, but not for hope, for closure, for the myth that ruled you, for the job that sold you, for the god you're about to kill. Because in Night City, there's one final prayer worth saying. Wake the fuck up, samurai. We've got a city to burn.